We are ready to go live and recording.
Perfect. Hope all of you had a great day. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a nice weather in Berlin.
Right. In Stuttgart as well, in the south as well. Yeah. I mean, I would Germany overall, I guess. It's really spring.
You just came back from Chile, huh?
Yes, Ecuador.
Ah, Ecuador,
Exactly.
sorry.
So for me, it's not that warm, right? But yes, for Germany times, I would say it's really, really nice and beautiful. Yeah. Ecuador was hot. It was hot, but nice. Yeah.
Just wait a minute and then we will start.
I follow your guidance whenever you said go.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Fireside Chat format. My name is Laure Poisson. I am the head of program at Reaktor.Berlin, and to give you just some few words about Reaktor.Berlin, who we are an acceleration program for pre-seed startups that are based in Berlin. And what we basically do, we help startup founder to turn their idea into reality, to go to the market and to get their first financing round. We provide them with monthly grants, with coaching, mentoring. We also connect them with a very bright community of experts, with business angels, VC found from Germany, and we have also a nice space in Berlin, Schöneberg, a co-working space where the startup can also work from this space and interact with other companies and founder. We also organize many events, and that's why I have the pleasure tonight to welcome you to this Fireside Chat. It's like a monthly inspiring talk where we invite entrepreneurs, players from the tech ecosystem or from the innovation and entrepreneurship world to share their knowledge, their expertise, and to inspire us. And I have the pleasure tonight to have Sophia Rödiger with us. She's the founder and the CEO of BloXmove, which is a mobility blockchain platform. She will tell us a bit more about the company, but also about her career path and her experience as a founder, as entrepreneurs, and what she can also maybe give advice to founders that listen to us tonight. And to moderate this this talk, it's nice to welcome you also, Lars Nigerhof, your journalist. You works for Startbase, which is a platform that cover all the trends related to startup ecosystem in Germany. You also works and writes paper for Die Welt or Der Spiegel, and I'm very happy to welcome you tonight. I will now leave the floor to you, and yeah, have the pleasure to start this inspiring talk with us tonight.
Thank you very much and welcome. Hello.
Thank you very much for that very lovely introduction. And yes, hello to everyone that tuned in tonight, and despite the warm weather. Yes, so Sophia, thanks for taking the time for us out of your busy schedule. And I think best would be if we would start by you describing what exactly BloXmove is in simple terms, and probably why the world needs it. Why do we need BloXmove, especially concerning the future of mobility?
Yeah, you started already laughing when you said in easy words, because we had a good pre-discussion, right? And we realized that this entire field, for sure, it's an heavy tech topic, is not that easy to understand, but I give my best. So first of all, thank you that I can join your session here. What's BloXmove? BloXmove is a Web3 infrastructure. So we are a pure B2B provider. And what we offer is a decentralized mobility blockchain platform for all the running transactions in a mobility journey. Yeah, means customer identification, means ticket booking, means an invoice or B2B clearing between two partners. And at the end, also an integration in accounting systems of companies. And with companies, so our B2B partners, I mean transport operators like scooters, like bike companies, bus, train, all these types of mobility, which we know in an urban area, for example. And this is what we're doing. We connect all the types of mobility, but not, as you know, maybe with a kind of super app or aggregation app. It's more, as I said, coming from the back end, from the infrastructure. This is what we are doing. And why does it need something like that? Because we believe that it needs a new efficiency in that entire topic, and also less fragmentation. Because right now, I guess everybody who is using alternatives, so services next to the car, because you maybe do not own a car, then you have, I would say, around about 20 apps per city. And if you travel to another city, you need another set of apps. You have to download, to verify driver's license and all that stuff. We know that process. And this is for you time consuming and maybe exhausting, but also for the provider, it's cost intense and resource intense. And this is what we can improve when we create that joint infrastructure where all the providers work together. It's a bit like in German Genossenschaft. You can use that term for that. It's a similar approach, not the same, but a similar approach. And at the end, all the providers share a common decentralized infrastructure. And what this infrastructure can do is an automated communication, a secured communication between all the different providers. As I said at the beginning, on different transaction levels.
I think you already touched a little bit on that, but as you said in the beginning, this is a blockchain-based service. Obviously, blockchain right now, very hot topic. Could you explain why you think it was necessary to use blockchain for this kind of platform? And what are the advantages to more, let's say, classic ways of connecting different providers
Yeah, really, really good question. To make it even more complex, in our case, it's not just one blockchain. First of all, we use public technology, means on the one hand, on the identification and smart contract side, means ticketing process, contract process, we use Ethereum. And on the B2B settlement side, means everything which is related to the B2B financing element, we use a DLT, so distributed ledger. That's a bit a different technology topic, and use that for a really secured finance transaction service. Yeah, so it's even more complex. And BloXmove is a layer 2 technology, means combines everything on a layer 2 level. Yeah, so this may be just overall for the technology infrastructure. Why we believe that it needs something like this decentralized technology, because right now, as I said at the very beginning, right now we have a really complex mobility market. We have tons of providers, and due to the very attractive market of VC investments and also more and more traveled miles, we see more and more companies starting an own business and a fleet in that area. What's great on the one hand, but on the other hand, for us as end user, it's more and more complex. So we believe this is the first reason why we need a decentralized infrastructure, because with single integrations, we would integrate for, I don't know, decades. Yeah, so maybe in 100 years, we have onboarded all the different providers. It needs something which is more efficient, which has more speed. And we believe that this decentralized infrastructure can increase that speed, because at the end, every party plug-ins once. Yeah, it's not necessary that we integrate and build a bridge, and then the next party and the third party and the fourth party, because this is exactly what needs the time and what's so resource intense when it comes to integration projects. If you plug in once and then you have access to all the providers in that network, yeah, due to the case that every provider has a representative node in that network, it's way more efficient. That's the first element. The second element is then related to cost savings and so on, because if a customer is verified once, and with customer, I mean the end customer, like you and me on road, and this on a decentralized identity level means I have the ownership about my identity. I can decide if this and that company can use this and that data from my identity. Then it's more efficient if different companies route the customer from one place to the other. Yeah, and now let me give you an example. For example, I'm in Stuttgart right now. I have my Stuttgart local train app, for example, and I visit you in Berlin. Now, with our solution based on that Web3 infrastructure, I can use my local Stuttgart app, now my train app, and can book the Berlin, I don't know, Felix scooter, for example. Yeah, in this case, the company in Stuttgart can route my identity to Felix, and no verification, no, I don't know, driver license registration is necessary. So for me, it's really convenient, and also Felix is saving money, yeah, because especially the customer acquisition, so the first position in a journey, is the most, or the cost intense position in the entire journey. And this, for example, the efficiency which we bring in, yeah, on transaction cost level. This is another element where we believe this joint process, this joint value network, which we can create, is really efficient and brings benefits for the providers. Yeah? And last but not least, another element is that when it comes to B2B settlement, we have right now very, very complex administration processes, not project processes, when you need different invoices to different legal entities. Yeah? And in our case, as I said, for example, if you remember, the Stuttgart local train app and the scooter app in Berlin, they work together. They have different amounts of money with which they have to share. Yeah? One is a receivable, one is a payable amount or account. And so there's no more efficient solution than a decentralized technology, because in the same moment, both parties have the same balance in their books. Yeah? And for each and every company, that's important to understand, for the accounting departments, the book value is the relevant value, which is really for entire process is the right fact. And therefore we believe there's no more efficient infrastructure than a decentralized distributed ledger technology. This is why we combine these different elements.
Okay. You talked about decentralization. Your former position was at Daimler, and as far as I understand, you were, among other things, also a little bit involved with the creation of the Free Now platform, which is also offering ride sharing, car sharing, e-scooters and all that stuff. How did that experience with the Free Now platform at Daimler influence you and your colleagues in creating this model? And what do you think are the actual advantages that BloXmove has over an alternative like Free Now, where everything is provided from one hand, from one central controlling entity?
Yeah. I think different elements, I would say, lead to the decision why we believe that our approach coming from the back end is more efficient and is, I would say, the future approach, because the aggregation apps have a big issue. First of all, I don't believe in that super app which can connect and integrate all types of mobility. I mean, this would be so overloaded with different services, and I don't know if any user can really understand at the end which service can I book via that app. Yeah, so it's really tricky from the UI perspective. The integration element I mentioned already, it's really time consuming to build interface by interface by interface. Yeah, would be more efficient to have, as I said, one plugin, and then you have access to the node structure, you have access to tons of providers. This is really, yeah, there's nothing which is faster. And the last element is that this aggregation super apps have one problem, and the problem is on the side of the provider. Because if I'm a transport operator, like a scooter app, and I get integrated by Free Now, for example, first of all, I lose my customer touch point, means very valuable data. And second element is I have to pay for that service. So 5 to 30% of my revenue goes to this aggregation app. Yeah, for example, the Uber case and the Free Now case. So as you see, it's a lose-lose situation for the transport operators. And this is a big, big issue. And right now we see more and more trends also from governance and all that stuff, that they believe this GAFA, so the big dragons, like Google and so on, this is not a really equal future. So also, for example, in China, but also America, more and more initiatives lead against that aggregation topic. And we believe that this decentralized topic, more on a corporate, I would say, really collaborative model, is really something which is, which is the future.
Okay. I think it's pretty obvious that one example you just talked about, a train company or a public transport company in Stuttgart wouldn't feel competition with an e-scooter provider in Berlin. But a lot of these companies are actually in direct competition, different e-scooter providers, car sharing services within themselves, and also with the other branches of mobility, future services. Is it hard to convince them that it's actually useful for them to use a backend like yours, or is it pretty obvious to them once you describe the technology and your idea behind it?
For them, it's quite obvious, because at the end, that's a great thing in such a decentralized network infrastructure. They can stay competitors. They can work together, but they stay equal competitors on eye level. The problem is more in the relation with the aggregation platform, because here you have the strong aggregator in the front, as I said, with a B2C, so customer contact, and the transport operator is definitely more a level below. And at the end, the aggregation platform, and that's often the fear, if they are too big and too strong, they can rule the rights, the prices, all that stuff, right? In our case, everyone is, as I said, equal, and every party can, it's not a must, but can offer the services of the others. But everybody can do that, right? It's more a business decision. If I want to integrate, I don't know, the tier scooter, maybe the Flixbus bus and all the other types in my app, in my front end, but that's a decision which any provider, transport operator can make by themselves. And this is exactly the change in that idea, right? Everybody can be a marketplace at the end, but not have to be. And this is the idea what we change at the end. So therefore, it's quite easy to convince them. Often we use different pictures for that, or narratives. One strong narrative is a star alliance. It's not exactly the same, but the mechanism is very similar. The star alliance, right? They work together because one airline can never offer you, never offer you a ticket one trip around the globe, right? You need different airlines and also different licenses and flight places working together. And this is exactly the idea of the Star Alliance. And if you transport that mechanism to the urban mobility area, could be very similar. Yeah. And the second narrative which we use is the data roaming, because this is exactly what we can explore as end user at the end. If you think in a scenario where Web3 infrastructure is really the base for everything. At the end, we have kind of wallet, maybe a mobility pass in our smartphone, or I don't know, in future in our glass or whatever. And this is our check-in and check-out principle for mobility. And then you start maybe in Germany, but you visit, I don't know, a person in New York City. You can still say use your local infrastructure, but you can check in and check out in the urban mobility in New York. Right, as we know from data roaming, you will never change your, I don't know, telecommunication provider if you travel to Lisbon, for example. And this is exactly the idea. The big vision is a kind of mobility service roaming vision.
Okay, very, very plastic, very, very vivid. I think one unique thing about the German market and some other European market is that the public transport sector, the trains and the buses, are almost completely controlled by the government, by the public sector. How did you deal with the public sector or how do you deal with them in trying to acquire them for your platform solution, considering that they have to look at other factors than, for example, an e-scooter provider or a car sharing company?
Yeah, ouch, now you get my pain point. No, absolutely, really, really important question. And I think we all agree here in the room that public transportation is at the end the element for urban mobility, right? And especially if you look in all the transaction numbers, they have the biggest numbers of customers and also rides, so to say. So they have a crucial role in that setup. In Germany, it's really tricky, and I'm really honest here. It's tricky. We see good movements right now, especially inspired by our foreign countries. Netherlands is really looking forward and also going forward in that field. Also the Scandics, right, like Finland and so on, with open standardized APIs, they made it already. Switzerland is also quite advanced when it comes to the standards APIs, and we see that this will come, I would say, in a few years also in Germany. This will totally change the entire structure of who is allowed to sell tickets for public transport sector. Right now, it's absolutely a good question, and I have no final answer for that. We see good movements right now, especially with all the, I guess you know about the initiative Mobility Insight. It's an own initiative from public transportation to public transportation, but they have a very similar idea of, it's not so much about the one and only app. It's more about, as I said, this opportunity of allowing different apps, but realizing a kind of roaming. They stay on public transportation level, but this is great because if they connect already public transportation, it's easier for us to connect then with, for example, new mobility, right? Because as you said, new mobility like scooters, bikes, they are really open. They have already digital business models. So it's quite easy to get an API key and onboarding is done. So this is really simple and fast. Yes, we need a few more, I would say, public discussions and also political discussions on the public transportation side. But I'm really optimistic. Everything goes in the right direction right now. And as I said, we are really inspired by our foreign countries. And with Netherlands, for example, we have amazing progress and good collaboration also with ministries, with the Dutch blockchain coalition. So they are really going forward.
All right. You touched on it earlier, said one of the disadvantages of a centralized provider is the fact that the different companies have to actually pay them for the access to its customers. going back on that, I mean, obviously you are not working for free as well. Maybe you could elaborate what your business case is and where you are actually trying to get your share out of this whole arrangement.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We also want to earn money at the end for our business case. How we earn money is purely based on transaction fees. So whenever there's a full running transaction, and here we have to differentiate. If I have my Flixbus app, for example, and I book a Flixbus service, there's no interaction with a Web3 infrastructure by BloXmove. There's no transaction fee for BloXmove, right? But if I use Flixbus app, for example, and book, I don't know, the Stuttgart local train ticket, then there is a transaction which is running via our infrastructure. And this is a little amount of money, 1 to, I don't know, maximum 5%. This is something we set in our B2B contract, and that's it. The good thing is this is not on top, because as I said earlier, you will reduce some other costs. For example, payment transaction visa costs, for example, right? Because as I said, the B2B clearing is more efficient and is in a different layer structure compared to the structure which we have right now. If different businesses make financial transaction with each other, because then you have a bank in between, you have Visa, for example, Visa transaction costs and so on. And this is not necessary anymore in our infrastructure. So you reduce costs on the one hand and have a little amount for the BloXmove transaction. It's pay-per-use. So if there's no ride, then there's no costs. That's a good thing. And at the end, we earn money through scaling. That's our, I would say, main business model. It's not about, I don't know, 5 rides for a local bike app. At the end, it's really about the mass in the ecosystem. And this is the focus, the strategic focus right now, which we have, is really overcome the chicken egg problem in a network, right? At the very beginning, if we are 3 providers in that network, it's okay, but the benefit is not that big. If you can roam, I don't know, in a group of 30 or 300 providers, then you have really an impact and a benefit.
Since you already mentioned it, I mean, I think you started last year, it's correct? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
How many companies do you have in your network? What's the state of the of BloXmove in early 2022? How many corporations were you already able to secure?
Yeah, we have, so not all are officially announced, therefore I cannot speak about all the names, and for sure, especially with B2B companies, we want to be really sensitive. But 16 customers agreed on a joint letter of intent or partnership agreement. This is where we are right now. And with the first companies, like a very famous European scooter company and bike company, for example, we realized the onboarding process in a few weeks. So this is something where we are really proud of, because we can show that there's really efficiency, and especially when it comes to time, really savings when we want to onboard.
Were there any surprising obstacles or hurdles in the acquisition of partners that you maybe didn't think about when you started BloXmove, when you first had this idea in your head?
Yeah, good question. I mean, always, right? Always in a foundation process, founding process, you have such issues. Not something which is totally surprising me, but something which I maybe underestimated at the end in the speed and impact on our business is for sure the B2B relation, right? We have a dependency on B2B business, and as we all know from companies, no one, I don't know, sits on the desk and wait for BloXmove, yeah, and the new innovation. So everyone has his operative running business and has not so much capacity for innovative or radical topics, and this is for sure an issue. Then you have political situations, for example, with the Ukrainian war right now, which we could not expect. And for sure, companies have issues and say, guys, it's cool what we started or what we're doing, but we have to postpone, I don't know, the kickoff, or the third sprint has to be postponed, something like that. And this is for sure something where we need a long breath. And this is something which I underestimated. At the very beginning, I believed this network effect, which I mentioned at the beginning, this kicked in earlier. Yeah, and now we see it is it's more a marathon, not a sprint. Let's call it like that.
Okay. Going back to the blockchain aspect in this sense, I think it was New York Times who at the weekend wrote that it's one of the worst explained technologies around today. So I would assume that a lot of people you encountered in trying to win them over to your network probably had a little bit of a wrong idea what it was about, or just thought about possible negative uses of it. Was it also a task just to, first of all, tell them we're not trying to run a crypto scam here, we're actually interested in using it in a very practical way?
Absolutely. Really, really important point you mentioned here. And it's still our task, not only at the very beginning. I mean, we have some good elements, especially story elements, which give us trust and also credibility, especially that we're coming from the industry, that we have really leadership experience. So the team is very strong. We have the backing from Mercedes. So as you know, we incubated the technology over more than 3 years together with Mercedes. So this is also something you can see in press releases, in videos. This gives trust for sure, right? And at the end, it's a lot about trust. Do I believe in that team and that people? This is one strong element. But yes, as you said, with all the rumors, also about the energy discussion, waste of energy, and then with scamming, everything is dark in the crypto area. We have all the thought sometimes, where we have to educate, let's call it like that. And often the first pitch is really a lot about education, a high level explanation. Therefore, we use the pictures I used earlier with the Star Alliance, with data roaming, because here more and more people get an idea of what can I do with that infrastructure, right? And at the end, and this is also something I often say, it's totally strange that all the people try to understand blockchain. I mean, did you try to understand all the HTML protocols of the internet? I guess no. We learned how we can use internet, right? And how we use applications based on the internet. And it's super interesting that everybody want to understand the protocol dimension of blockchain. I think it's not necessary at the end. And therefore, I see my role more as a bridge builder. We have to explain which applications we can build on a Web3 infrastructure and what we can do with that, and what is the benefit at the end for customers and users. Not so much about how do I code and protocol, right? And this is a strange discussion right now, and it mixes different level of detailed information about blockchain, then high level, everything's black or white, right? And this is a strange discussion, but I'm absolutely with you. We have to deal with that, right? If we want to offer products and platform as a service in that area. And therefore, as I said, first pitch is often purely about education. And this, for example, also where we started women in tech classes, and also, I would say, overall tech debates in classes, that people can ask all the questions, right? Also, if it's a beginner question, that's great, because you're not the only person in the room who has really no idea about, I don't know, NFT and DeFi and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Okay. Continuing on that topic, it's like we now learned, it's quite a complicated technology. It's not easily explained what BloXmove does. Also, it's not really a fancy customer-facing app, like, for example, a Gorillas or Tier or whatever. So when you go to venture capitalists and you pitch your idea, how do you perceive their reaction? Is it that they are interested in B2B ideas, in a little bit more complicated, brainy ideas, or are most of them still quite focused on easily scalable customer-facing applications, for example?
Yeah, really both sides, I would say. First of all, and as I said also in our pre-discussion, it's the best time for founding right now and founding an own company, because there's so much VC money right now, and really it's easy. I would say the easiest time to get money. That's a good thing on the one hand. So if you maybe had the idea to found something, then do it now. Also the support of the governments right now, also with a new Koalitionsvertrag, right, with a paper which is really related to all the support of startups. It's really amazing, the wave right now. So that's a good thing, that we serve this wave. But yes, when it comes to B2B stories, there's often the element of how do you want to realize the fast scaling, right? Because every VC guy knows that B2B business is really intense, needs a lot of relationship management. As I said earlier, have the hurdle of you depend on the timeline and also the resources of this B2B company. And this is really something which is sometimes a minus point, let's call it like that, a minus element. The good thing, on the other hand, is that we offer a universal, I would say, technology, which is, you can utilize and apply this technology to many different use cases. And this is something the VC guys see, and they look for startups in their portfolio, which can really realize a big amount, a big scalability. And this is something where we have, again, a lot of plus points and plus elements and aspects on our, so to say, pro and con list at the end. So therefore I said you have to look from different angles, and it has both sides in it.
Mm. Yeah. I think before we get to Q&A later on in, I think, about 10 minutes, I wanted to get to another topic, because I think it's quite interesting that besides all the mobility focused things you're doing, you're also expanding into the energy market, which on first look seems a little bit strange, because you would not think that those are two fields that are necessarily connected. Maybe you could elaborate how your company came to the idea that they should do this, and where possible synergy effects are between mobility and energy, especially in your case.
Yeah, great question. And maybe first of all, because you mentioned that we have in a few minutes more time for questions. If you want to use chat, it's also great. We see the chat and can integrate your questions. Yes, mobility and power. Why do we see a link here? And if I explain a bit more what is a link, then you can immediately will get why we are into that field, and why it is not that strange. Because maybe you heard about it's not a hype, but it's a term which is more and more also in the mainstream press and so on. It's sector coupling, or Sektorenkopplung in German. So we couple the industry of power and the industry of mobility. And why? Because we have new technologies in the car, in the battery of the car, which allows, first of all, the charging, a pull of energy, but also a push back of energy. So bidirektionales Laden in German. And this technology allows, and especially Japanese cars like Nissan and so on, they are really advanced in the technology, but more and more companies also like Volkswagen, they offer this technology in their electric cars. This new change from the technology perspective allows that we connect the car in the energy grid. Or also maybe with buildings, with homes. So at the end, you can call it vehicle to X, to different elements and different assets. And why do we need that? When it comes to green energy, to renewable energies like sun, wind, water, you have, first of all, great resources, because this is existing hopefully forever. The problem is that the sun is shining when the sun is shining, but on a rainy day and cloudy day, you will collect less energy. But on sunny days, you have so many energy that you cannot use it. And this is a problem for the energy grid, because we need a balance of 50 hertz. And now there are strange concepts. For example, Germany is selling energy to foreign countries like Switzerland. Switzerland is pushing water up and down to use the energy. And this is, for example, leads to negative energy prices in the renewable energy field. And now there's a big product and also investment behind flexibility. So how can we make green energy more flexible, especially now with the new discussions and the push around the discussion of green mobility energy? We need new ways of balancing the grid. It's not possible to do it with existing infrastructure. And now with the increase in electric fleets, this is something which is super interesting, because one car, and not a big one, a normal 2-seat Nissan can really organize the energy for 1 week for one household. So it's really a good number, not that we need, I don't know, millions of batteries. And therefore, and this is exactly where we are in, we connect the mobility, means the electric fleet, with the grid. Yeah, and our part is really on the side of mobility, because this is where we are coming from, right? And where we are experts when it comes to the fleet operation. And this will create a totally new revenue stream, a totally new product and service for fleet companies, yeah, because they can generate new revenue streams out of that product, which is called flexibility, yeah, in the energy field. And this is exactly where we are in. Here we work together, for example, with 50 Hertz, and especially in German, a very famous grid provider, and Energy Web Foundation, and also Fraunhofer, the charging point infrastructure from Fraunhofer. So really interesting research case and use case right now.
Considering that you and I think also your co-founder have a background mostly in the mobility field, is it easier for in a case like that where you're trying to expand in another field of expertise to try to get that expertise for yourself, or did you decide to hire some people who have more familiarity with the power sector?
Yeah, that's a very good question you have. Yes, we will, and this more will hire some experts also related to the power field, because yes, this is really special. And with all the ISO norms and so on, you have totally different, yeah, you need different expertise here. And as you said, I think it takes years if I would really understand everything in that detail, and have also the network and the connections to some politic discussions and so on. So it's really helpful to hire that expertise. The good thing is, on the e-mobility side, we have it already on board, especially our CFO has more than 20 years of experience in the fleet operation and especially e-mobility. So here we have the expertise. On the power side, for sure, it's more about our partners like 50 Hertz, which I mentioned already, but we will also hire 1 or 2 experts on that dimension. So if you're interested or you know someone, I'm really happy to have a talk. Yeah.
Okay. I would say let's end our one-on-one discussion on a little bit more maybe light or personal note. Obviously, you come from a corporate background. You worked at Daimler, one of the largest companies in Germany. And now you are founder and CEO of a startup, basically leaving the big corporation for an upstart company with probably a lot of promise, but also a lot of uncertainty. So maybe the question, why did you make this decision? And now, I don't know, 1 or 2 years in, what are your first conclusions to this experience?
Sounds a bit like you would say you're crazy.
No, I wouldn't. No, that wasn't implied. I'm sorry if it sounded like that.
No. Yeah, really good question. I mean, first of all, I have to say I'm really, really happy that I had, so to say, the school within the field of Daimler, because I learned a lot about relations, about also talking with management and all that stuff. And this is exactly what we need right now. Yeah, the best case if we pitch in front of a C-level person, and this is really good if you learned how to speak with the people, understand their organizational structure, what they need to go back and convince the others, right? This is really, really helpful. And therefore, I'm totally thankful for all the network and all the learnings I could do. At the end, I had always a wish to have an own company, to create another level of impact, I would say, and to bring really people around us which have a common vision and want to create something in the future. So therefore, it was clear that I want to along my life, I want to own a company, and this was exactly the best time I could choose for that. And then we had many internal decisions on the Daimler side, changes in board of management, change in strategy, and it was really the opportunity, take it and do something with that. And then we did the management buyout last year, bought the technology, and as you said, we set up this company. This was my way, and why I decided to do that. And I had maybe the good starting point or platform in Daimler, because as I said earlier, I had the opportunity to set up startup hubs in Daimler. So I had always a link to startup networks, to the VC area, yeah, more from a corporate VC, but I learned already how this is working. So therefore it was, for me, it was quite clear I have to do that. Yeah, it was I don't regret that. It's really amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would say, I don't know if we have any questions already arriving.
I will have, if you might, I will have maybe the first question, and then it will allow the other to ask. I know, Sophia, we had also a talk together, and I know that you have a very interesting background. So we were talking about blockchain, mobility, and energy, but at first you are a business psychologist. You are also yoga trainer, which I found like super interesting. And my question would be, you have also another company in parallel, focus on mindfulness and digitalization. So my question would be, how do you actually combine these two different worlds and to run like two different projects also at the same time?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. First of all, in all the different jobs or roles I mentioned the term of bridge builder. So I see, you mentioned mindfulness, digitization. We spoke about corporate and startup hub, right? So I always was in that element, in that gap, I would say, combining different areas, and this is something which is really is more the motto of my life. So this is how I combine all the different roles. But yes, when it comes to timing, you mentioned, for example, my other company, MountainMinds, which I founded 3 years ago. I had to reduce and really reduce, I would say, almost to 10 or 20% on that end, right? It's not possible to run a company like a really fast growing startup with 20 people. We are now, more than 20 people after, not a full year now. So this is really something where I had to rearrange and also negotiate with my friends and also family how I deal with that, and I had to reduce on the MountainMinds side. That's for sure, right? So I'm really honest here. You need to make a decision. There will come the time, and I'm a fan of, and this is what I did, for example, with MountainMinds, that I had the Daimler job and also realized I want to start something, a consultancy. I had both, so to say, perspectives and had my job with Daimler, but also started this company. But there was always a time where I had to decide, right? And this was also the decision why I left the company in Daimler, because you need to decide. This was clear learning of my story. Yeah, and then at the end, it's you mentioned my background coming from psychology, so I was always interested in trust concepts, in brain concepts, how we think, and how we have mental strengths and all that stuff. This is why I linked then also the element of digitization, remote work, remote leadership with a kind of digital mindfulness at the end, and had the opportunity to write a book here. So this is how all the different topics come together, right? It's not that I did totally different things. It always has this link in this, I would say, line, and this makes it easy for me. And then it's more about, it gives energy to me, and then it's not so much, okay, here a job title role, blah, blah, blah. It's more that everything flows together, so to say. And this is why I can manage that,
I think Mr. Cisse had a question.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Lars. Hi, Sophia. Very nice to meet you. It's really amazing to listen to you speaking. And I think personally, we're quite aligned on the subjects of interest, but for another time. So I'm also a startup founder, work in the mental health space, especially for young professionals. And we're currently looking into seeing if our solution is better B2C solution or better like for B2B, right? And we talked with some companies, not with Mercedes, but with Volkswagen so far. And I wanted to ask you specifically when it comes to entering the B2B space. And obviously you need to convince people, you just mentioned that, and those people need to convince other people, right? So it's quite a process, especially with the corporates. So my question would be, if you had like 1 or 2 pieces of advice for startups to help them just getting their foot into the door, right? To run a pilot with those big corporates, what, from your experience, maybe 1 or 2 pieces of advice would be a big help?
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's no golden rule, right? That's always the problem. I mean, we had, as I said earlier, we had the great opportunity that I had a network coming from that industry, so I could really use many of the contacts. But what's really the best thing is that you start building relations via LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is really crucial for us. That you really make an amazing short text and like their postings. Really, it's more like finding different ways of how you can shine in their, so to say, attention field, right? Maybe you like you comment on their comments and all that stuff. This is how we start a relation with, for example, B2B contacts where we have no direct name or direct contact right now. Yeah, and then it's really, the good thing is that right now with all the remote stuff, it's quite, in our cases, at least in our case, it's quite easy to get a first interview, first pitch. And here it's really important that you rock the show, that you know everything about the person who is in front of you, really all facts. We do so many research about the company, about this person, what about hobbies, where's the person living, right? So that this is amazing with internet and social media, that you can find out so many details. And this is amazing. If you customize the pitch, this is something which is really valuable for us and really working in our case. But for sure, I would say it's not the golden rule. I would say, the luck that we have a big network coming from that area. And also, as I said, our CFO Bernd has 20 years of relations and experience in that area. I would say it's easier than a cold call, which you describe. And then events, if there are more and more physical events, I guess it's also not new for you, but this is crucial, right? There's nothing easier than having, I don't know, a drink or Coke together and evolving and starting a talk. So the classical way, I would say. But really the customized story, this is so important. And here I would really spend time and full focus and a lot of negotiations and discussions and training around the pitch. This is really important.
Well, thanks, Sophia. Thanks.
Yeah. And maybe another topic, last hint in our case, would also, very early we decided to go out and use social media. Yeah, and started to make a big bang, even maybe 2 months company, but we started to make a big bang because at the end, it's about visibility, right? And if someone can see you in the timeline, in the feed or something like that, it's easier to start a kind of dialogue. And this is also something where we decided quite early to do a big bang in communication. I don't know if it fits to your topics, right? It's also related about the story we tell, the brand we have, but this was also something which was really powerful in our case.
Cool, thanks, super helpful. Thank you, Sophia.
Okay, I don't see any other questions right now.
I see a few in the chat, or at least one question from product owner Mercedes Me. And in which areas do you need support right now? One really, as I said, last Tom mentioned, one pain point is really the public transport element. So more good contacts and support, and also, the belief in experiments and joint experiments and use cases also on the public side. So private and public, here we have really a gap right now where we need support to overcome that. And it's always great to do together with a strong brand like Mercedes, right? If Mercedes is in the room and on the table, it's more powerful than Sophia with BloXmove is knocking. So this is definitely something where we need support when it comes to connections to especially public sector, to cities, this entire B2G, so B2 governance or B2C, B2 city element. there is some, here we need support on all ends, because as I mentioned at the beginning, if we have more than 200, 500 different transport operators in one country, we have many pitches in front of us.
Maybe a follow-up question, since we're back at the pain point. What do you think would be a simply executed measure by the government to help you immensely in the short term in trying to adapt your service to public transport?
I guess it's not easy, but definitely more, as I said, more openness for such, use case projects, more start experiments, which has maybe no full timeline and business plan from the very beginning, which is really more a try, and here more a moderative guidance role maybe. So we have many talks with ministries, but at the end, often the answer is it's a great product, but we have to stay neutral. We cannot support you as one company. We are, I don't know, Bayern. We cannot support a startup from Baden-Württemberg. So often it's exactly that feedback we get. And here it's really pity that there's no possibility, or a slow possibility, which is too slow for startups. That's always a problem also with the big initiatives like Gaia X, Mobility Data Room. These are amazing initiatives, don't get me wrong, but often they are too slow when it comes to execution, and a startup cannot deal with that, right? I mean, all the founders here, they know this. We have to be really careful with our resources. And if we have a year of talking and meetings, but nothing is happening, we are dead after that, right? With burning rates. So this is a problem with different sectors. So I have not the final answer for that, but more lightweight, I don't know, experiments and openness for that. This would be great. And this is not easy, I know, because especially ministries, they have to stay neutral and have to be equal and deal equally with all companies. But here I think we can improve. Yeah.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I think there would be no use in trying to force this to 6 p.m. So last chance, if anyone wants to get something off that list.
Maybe I would
yes.
ask also something about the team. And so I don't know, how many employees do you have?
20.
20, okay.
20. And then for sure some flexible resources especially for IT development. Yeah.
It's actually always also a big challenge in this growth phase, to manage the employees and the growth company. How do you manage that actually in the very fast growing project?
Yeah, first of all, here I have the great learning, as I said, from more than 7 years of leading in Daimler. So I had already international teams and departments where I could learn. That's a good thing. It's a lot about communication, to be honest, right? And this is for sure time intense. So I would say my entire day is blocked, because you have one-on-ones, especially in the virtual room right now, and we are fully remote company with employees in China, in Finland, and so on. What's amazing, because you have a global talent pool which you can use, and where we could hire and convince amazing talents. But at the end, it's a lot about meetings, video conferences, staying close to the people, finding a way of creating trust, right? And at the end, really convincing and inspiring by a vision. And this is, I think, what is really powerful in our team, especially with our CTO, Harry, and myself, that we tell a strong story and a strong vision, and this inspires people. And I think that's the best thing in the early stage of a startup, that you have a group of people, and 20 is manageable. This is still family, I would say. It's a critical tipping point maybe, but still family, where you really convince the people we have an amazing vision, and we don't know the right and exact way right now. We have to define it, but at the end we all fight for the same vision. And this is something which I see, which is really strong right now in our team, and also the understanding of this technology, this decentralization, many people are also crypto invested, so have a long heritage, so to say, and also learnings with the technology. This is amazing because then you have the same spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the questions, and also about the mental health idea. I want to learn more about that. Let's connect after the meeting. Yeah.
Sure, would be happy, Sophia. I'll add you on LinkedIn. And thanks.
Cool. Let's do that. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I would say thank you very much for your time. I found it very interesting. I hope all the people that watched did so too. And well, at least from my side, thank you to you. Thank you to all the viewers. And since this was my first time at Fireside Chat, I hope I performed to all your expectations, and I hope we can can repeat that at the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lars, Torben. Thank you so much, Sophia, and for whole people who are in the audience. We have many events that will come, so just like stay tuned and have a look on our LinkedIn page. We will have like monthly Fireside Chat with inspiring people. And thank you for being here tonight. Have a nice evening to all, and yeah, see you very soon.
Great. Yeah, enjoy the evening with whatever is good for you. Yoga, gym, food. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. And yes, last time I felt very comfortable, so I guess you performed well.
That's all I was looking for, fishing for compliments. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you very much. Let's connect via LinkedIn.
Goodbye.
Bye.